He's worth roughly $250 billion. But will Elon Musk propel Donald Trump to 270? That's topping the Hill on NewsNation tonight. All right, well, in this election where you keep thinking you've maybe seen it all, now there's this. After Donald Trump worked the drive-thru at a McDonald's over the weekend, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, responding today, yes, indeed, she once worked at the Golden Arches.
I love McDonald's. I love jobs. I like to see good jobs. And I think it's inappropriate when somebody puts down all over the place that she worked at McDonald's. It was a big part of her resume that she worked at McDonald's, how tough a job it was.
Madam Vice President, do you work at a McDonald's?
Welcome to Washington. I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. Donald Trump blasting the federal response to Hurricane Helene. Vice President Harris traveling with a Cheney. And Elon Musk is giving out $1 million a day. Musk in a moment. But we begin tonight out on the campaign trail. Robert Sherman is with the vice president in Michigan. We start, though, with Mills Hayes, who was with the former president tonight in North Carolina. Mills?
Hey, Blake. Well, former President Donald Trump was here in Winona, North Carolina. That's right outside of Asheville. And he saw some of the damage from Helene, but he really went in on FEMA's response. He criticized it for not being enough. And he says that if he were president, then he would stick with Western North Carolina until everywhere had been rebuilt. He was so critical of FEMA that he called their response a disgrace and says that their rescue was non-existent. But he did say today that he would be in favor of bringing Congress back early to try and pass additional funding.
This horrible storm, many Americans in this region felt helpless and abandoned and left behind by their government. And yet in North Carolina's hour of desperation, the American people answered the call much more so than your federal government, unfortunately.
Trump claimed that FEMA ran out of money because it had given the money to migrants who came here illegally. But the Biden administration has pushed back on that, saying that it is false and that the money used from FEMA to help migrants is coming from a different place than the disaster relief fund within FEMA. Blake?
Mills Hayes, live for us in the Tar Heel State tonight. Mills, thank you. Meantime, Vice President Harris stumping in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin today. In Michigan, Democrats highlighted Gerald Ford's daughter endorsing the Democratic nominee. Harris also campaigned with the former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
We're not always going to agree, but I know Vice President Harris will always do what she believes is right for this country. Yes, we're going to have disagreements, but I actively invite good ideas from wherever they come. That's why I'm going to have a Republican in my cabinet, by the way.
But Republicans noted something else. Liz Cheney, the daughter of Dick Cheney, known for his hawkish views in the Middle East, stumping for the vice president in Michigan today. Our Robert Sherman is with the former president, is with the vice president, rather, in Michigan tonight. Robert?
Hey there, Blake. Good evening. And a different look for the vice president on the campaign trail today. Her headlining guest, not a Democratic lawmaker, not a celebrity, but instead a Republican. The former Congresswoman from Wyoming has given her full endorsement to Vice President Kamala Harris and has been an outspoken critic of the former president since the 2020 election. The former president took notice of all of this, choosing to go on offense, slamming the move to bring Cheney on the campaign trail and putting out this on Truth Social, which reads in part, quote, "If Kamala gets 4 more years, the Middle East will spend the next 4 decades going up in flames." In that same statement, he called Liz Cheney a war hawk. He's also very clearly going after Arab American voters here in the state of Michigan. Remember, a state in which over 100,000 people voted uncommitted in the Democratic primary this year, largely in protest of the war that's currently going on in the Middle East. So, what do supporters of the vice president think about this move here on the trail? Well, this is what they had to say. Take a listen.
I I wouldn't want Liz Cheney to be a member of the cabinet because her views on most issues are antithetical to those of the Democratic Party and mine. But she is a really articulate spokesperson for democracy.
Liz is the kind of person that, even though I don't agree with her, I think we can have a civil conversation.
For that many Republicans to support this campaign, it speaks volumes to me.
And worth noting as well, Blake, her stop in Michigan today, not in downtown Detroit, but in the suburbs. That's the strategy here. The path to victory runs through the suburbs, and they believe they need a broad, wide-spanning coalition in order to win them. Blake?
Robert Sherman, live for us outside Metro Detroit tonight. Robert, thank you. Also this evening, perhaps the wild card of them all this election, the wealthiest individual on planet Earth. Elon Musk now becoming a fixture on the campaign trail, holding events in Pennsylvania. Musk is supporting Donald Trump and so far has spent about $75 million on a PAC geared toward voter registration. He's even giving away $1 million a day to any random Pennsylvanian who signs a petition supporting the First and Second Amendments.
I have a surprise for you, which is that we're going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election.
Out on the trail today, the vice president asked about this, said it's being looked into, but she didn't give specifics of what that could entail.
I think people are looking into that. On the second point...
When you say people, do you mean the U.S. government?
I mean, I hear that folks are looking into it just based on the stuff you all are reporting.
Now, Musk's immense power as the founder and head of multi-global and revolutionary companies is nothing new. But the renewed focus on him as he supports Trump and gets involved with the presidential race is. Over the weekend, The Atlantic, for example, posting a story suggesting he could be Trump's Trojan horse. Quote, of all the risks posed by a Trump term, this might be one of the most terrifying, end quote. It says of Musk's potential influence. The New York Times with the story out, quote, U.S. agencies fund and fight with Elon Musk. A Trump presidency could give him power over them. Senator Ron Johnson is a Republican from the battleground state of Wisconsin, joins us live once again here on the Hill. Senator, thanks for being back with us. Always nice to speak with you, sir. You just heard the vice president there sort of give credence to this idea of looking into this Elon Musk giveaway. How would you respond to the VP?
Well, my guess, there are an awful lot of Pennsylvanians that are looking to figure out how they sign that petition. My guess is also that Elon Musk looked into the legality of it. I wouldn't doubt that the Department of Justice under Biden will use this as some kind of lawfare, some kind of attack on Elon Musk. But anyway, my guess is a lot of people want to sign that petition.
Do you have any issue with it?
Not particularly.
What if a Democrat... What if, though, a Democrat, let's flip it for a second, if a Democrat were to come into Wisconsin, battleground state, just like Pennsylvania, and say, you know what, I'm giving $1 million away for causes that are important to me, would you be fine with that?
Well, we certainly saw Zuckerbucks use his dollars to take over the election system in Green Bay. I wasn't fine with that. But listen, wealthy individuals can spend their money the way they want to, apparently, as long as they're not breaking the law. And my guess is Elon Musk looked at the legality of this thing, and he's structured it so it's a legal system.
There is a lot of this, Senator, stems from the left and their disdain for Elon Musk. It's been that way for a while, but there are real questions about his power, right? We talk about SpaceX and how the federal government relies on that. It's the leader in the industry right now, better than NASA. We talk about Starlink. He's got some 6,500 satellites up in space. What is the line between ingenuity, being the leader, but also having too much control over one particular industry and having too much control over the federal government?
So Elon Musk could be one of the tech giants that leans conservative and is actually interested in defending free speech versus the other tech giants who are fully in the radical left camp and who censored free speech. So I applaud Elon Musk for his integrity in terms of defending free speech, spending an awful lot of money to buy X so he could save that platform for free speech. He's a manufacturing engineering genius. He is allowing space launches at a fraction of the cost of NASA. He's saving people in North Carolina with SpaceX, the same thing, or Starlink, the same thing in terms of Ukraine. So again, his technology is marvelous. His engineering skill is really unparalleled. His manufacturing is excellence and efficiency is unparalleled.
I don't think anyone doubts that.
And I would love to see Donald Trump utilize his efficiency and engineering skills and apply that to the federal government. I love personally what he did with X. He came in there. What did he do? Get rid of about 80% of the workforce? It seems like X is operating just fine. I think we'd take a similar type of approach to the federal government, start asking all these employees that aren't showing up for work, supposedly teleworking, do we really need those people? Maybe we should set them free to get jobs in the private sector. We need workers in the private sector. We need to reduce the size of the federal workforce.
If you talk about reducing the size of the federal workforce and cutting it by 80%, would you do the same with your staff?
I would certainly do it with the Department of Education. We should get rid of the Department of Education. I think we need to look at government and take a look at what are we getting out of the government we have, what we're spending, how grossly inefficient we're spending, and how we're mortgaging our children's future. We need a paradigm-shifting approach to what government is doing to us, how they're bridging our freedoms, and how they're not solving problems, they're exacerbating problems.
Senator Ron Johnson, Republican of Wisconsin. I could talk to you about this all night long. Thanks for being with us here on the Hill. Catch you next time, sir. Appreciate it.
Oh, I'll do that sometime. Take care.
Yep, you got it. All right. Joining me now, Mick Mulvaney, NewsNation political and economic contributor, by the way, former Trump White House chief of staff. Kurt Bardella, NewsNation contributor. All right, guys. I read a lot of articles about Elon Musk over the weekend. He's out there. He's doing this $1 million thing. That's getting a lot of the attention. But look, there's a lot to talk to about Elon. And Kurt, let me start with you. Why is the left threatened by him right now? It's pretty clear that the left is. Should they be, and why?
Well, I think that when you have someone who is in a position to exercise an enormous amount of power over things like what type of information is consumed, how it's consumed, who it reaches, who's allowed to be on a platform, who's getting silenced, that is an enormous amount of influence. And I have to believe that if the shoe were on the other foot and this were a person more
so you're
thought to be left.
You're referencing X, though, Kurt, and I wonder if that's the reason to sort of go after him, given Tesla, SpaceX, Starlink, multiplayer money on the internet with PayPal and the like.
I think the most legitimate line of questioning really is when someone has this many federal contracts who is involved in the business of the federal government. Where's the line between oversight and making sure that there is some sort of check and balance? Again, the former oversight Republican in me remembers the days where Republicans wanted to make sure that there was a check and balance on federal contractors, where there wasn't waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement within the federal government contracting system. There was a lot of it, as Mick Mulvaney remembers, because he was on that very oversight committee that I also worked on.
So, Mick, I'm looking at a story from just Friday. SpaceX prevails over ULA, wins military launch contracts worth $733 million. SpaceX is winning contracts because they're the best in the business. But as Kurt brings up, there are real questions about how much control you want one person having. Where's the line there?
Well, listen, I'm not sure the Democrats cared who was running Twitter back before it was Elon Musk. I think the Trump derangement syndrome runs really, really deep. And, if they don't care who runs the Washington Post, which, by the way, is Jeff Bezos. So, look, politics is getting in the middle of everything. But you asked a good question. Does Elon Musk have too much power? I think the power we've given him over things like rockets is based on merit, and that's okay. I mean, the reason that ULA, the United Launch Alliance, is losing the contracts is they're not as good at doing the job as he is. As a taxpayer, I'm good with that. Do I get concerned about anybody having sort of monopoly power over anything? Yes, I do, but there are laws on the books against that already. Okay. So that's where that lawfare. Go ahead.
No, I was going to. No, it's fascinating with Elon, but you can certainly see all of this start to pick up as he's out on the campaign trail. Moving on to the next one. Roll it real quick. There's this.
This is all on Trump.
Oh, hold on.
I'm allowed to do that, right?
Yeah. Let's check and make sure it's everything you said it would be.
It's better be. It's going to be the best yet. I made it myself.
All right, of course, Trump over the weekend serving up drive-thru at a McDonald's in PA, apron in all. Today, the vice president responded saying Trump is wrong. She's been there. She was an employee way back when. Mulvaney, why'd he do this, and does this serve a purpose?
Politicians have done this forever. I used to love these opportunities to go and just be with ordinary people. I'm not sure it moves a single voter, but it certainly brings smiles to people's faces. And it might send a message that maybe Donald Trump is not as bad as everybody thinks he is. But more importantly, look at this. I think I've done TV in 6 different countries today. This was the top story in every single one of them. And I'm not making that up. Look at the reports over the weekend about the amount of earned media that Donald Trump has gotten in this race compared to what Kamala Harris has received. He's a genius at this. He's doing it again.
Bardella, real quick.
I think the one thing that Trump wasn't counting on was this Philly Inquirer headline. Trump evasive about raising PA minimum wage while pretending to work at McDonald's in Bucks County. McDonald's cosplay doesn't always work out so well.
Kurt Bardella, Mick Mulvaney, got to leave it there. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
See you soon.
You got it. All right, Chris Steyerwalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Hello, Chris. I interviewed Donald Trump July 1st of 2020 and asked him about minimum wage. He told me I'd have an answer for you in a couple weeks, and here we are. Democrats are still waiting for it.
Any minute now. It's going to be done with the buzzer that goes off at McDonald's when the fries are ready. That's the one. It is. That's the one.
You were nodding your head, though, with Mulvaney. You think he's right. I don't want to put words in your mouth. You were
that it doesn't move votes.
Okay.
Yes, I think he's right about that. This is something that makes, if you like Donald Trump, you love this, right? If you hate Donald Trump, you hate this.
Okay.
And you heard it right there from your panelists. If it feels so good, so the Republicans are in a vibes phase of the election right now.
Okay, I've heard that.
The Democrats had the vibes phase early on. Kamala Harris brought the party together. Everybody got excited. They felt really good. Now the Republicans are vibing. He got cheered at the Steelers game. He put on the apron. He did the fries. Everything to Republicans right now looks like victory, just as everything to Democrats looked like victory before. It's mostly hogwash, but hogwash and bumper stickers will carry a campaign far.
All right. Still to come here on The Hill, a new report out from Congress on the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Details coming up here on The Hill. Plus, I texted Steyerwalt this morning. I texted him a question. I said, hey, Chris, what happens if the undecided voters don't actually decide? Chris has the numbers. Other side of the break. Steyerwalt breaks it down. Stay with us.
We'll see. We'll see.
All right, so for the first time, our election forecast predicts that Donald Trump will be elected president. Now, Trump has overtaken Vice President Kamala Harris in the Decision Desk HQ The Hill forecast of the probability of who will win. It is a very narrow margin, though. The model predicts Trump has a 52% chance of winning to Harris's 48%. DDHQ says it shifted its forecast after seeing movement in Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina toward Trump, along with continued support for him in Wisconsin. DDHQ, though, emphasizes the race is still very much a toss-up. All right, so among the many questions going forward, what happens if the remaining undecided voters choose they are not going to vote for the top of the ticket at all? New polling looks into the movement of undecided voters, and Steyerwalt is here to break it all down. Chris?
You know, today I was going to talk to you people about the voters' views on the economy, my typical kind of boring stuff.
Yep.
And Blake Berman was like, I have questions. Blake Berman has questions. So there's a new poll about this is the top line poll, if we can see this. This is Washington Post, Schar School at the University of Maryland. Not that, but instead this. Ta-da, here you go. So this is where these swing states are in this poll. And you can see the most surprising here is Georgia, Harris up by 4, Trump leading where he's supposed to in North Carolina and Arizona, but struggling in Georgia. This is an election Kamala Harris would win. But you saw something underneath. You saw how many have definitely made up their mind.
I had a question.
That's a great question. There it is, 74% now versus 58% in the spring. So what do you want to know? What's the question?
The question that I want to know is what happens if the undecided say, you know what, I'm not going to vote at the top of the ticket. I'm just going to vote down ballot, and who that favors.
Okay, show us how many undecided battleground voters are there. This is good. I say magic words and then the
magic wall does it for you.
Okay, that's it. 26% now to 42% in the spring.
Right.
But this is where it's more interesting. Who they are. Who are they?
Okay.
Who are the uncommitted? So you can see here that it's mostly younger voters. This is not surprising because they're lower propensity voters. The later you get in an election, if you are undecided, are you really going to vote?
Right, that's my question.
If you're undecided. So here's what we can generally say and show us the difference, the ethnic differences, whites and non-whites. So non-white voters slightly higher on undecided. Here's what I'll tell you.
Okay.
The percentage of undecided voters this year is low, low, low. Time of decision has been much earlier this cycle than it was in 2020 and way earlier than it was in 2016. There is a quarter basically of the undecided at this point as there was in 2016.
Wow.
People are dialed in.
People are dialed in. Steyerwalt breaks it down. Thank you, sir. Still much more ahead. Here on the Hill, News Nation's Brian Enton hits the road ahead of Election Day. What he is hearing from voters on the ground as we start our Driving the Vote series. And Donald Trump live in North Carolina. This time he's about to appear with Dr. Ben Carson. We will take those remarks when they happen. The Hill on News Nation. Back in a few. All right, welcome back here to The Hill on News Nation. The House Task Force investigating Donald Trump's first assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, just released its first report. The conclusion? The shooting in July was, quote, preventable and should not have happened, end quote. Now, the report blamed communication failures between the Secret Service and local law enforcement, inadequate planning and coordination, failure to include vulnerable areas in the security perimeter, and unclear chains of command. Joining us now, News Nation Washington correspondent Joe Khalil. Hello, Joe. I guess a lot of that is kind of but this is a really serious event that we're trying to get to the bottom of. Anything new that we learned today? Any big bombshells in there?
I wouldn't say bombshells, but what this report did that some of the others did not, because these House members have really spent a lot of time, a lot of interviews, is it went into detail in a way the others hadn't about the extent to which these officers saw Thomas Crooks. They recognized him, multiple officers, as a potential threat. They took pictures of him. They texted his picture around. They even said that they saw a rangefinder on him, right? So it was a lot of things that they not only were communicating to each other, communicating to the Secret Service.
Right.
The Secret Service had this information, and yet no one did anything about it in terms of confronting him, going to talk to him, and nobody let the detail around Donald Trump know about it.
Wow.
The extent to which this report lays that out, I think is breathtaking, honestly.
Joe Khalil, live for us, Joe. Thank you. Appreciate it, sir. All right. Meantime, if former President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris want to win the presidency, they most likely have to win the state of Pennsylvania. The vice president was all across the Midwest today. You could see her there with Liz Cheney in the Philly suburbs. She was in Pennsylvania. She was in Michigan, going to Wisconsin, etc. Let me show you the DDHQ presidential forecast right now and why Pennsylvania is so important. So here we are at the wall. You can see the 7 key swing states all in yellow. The blue wall there in the Midwest, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, out west. All right, let's start in the South. I could give you 1,000 different combinations, but let's just work off this one here. So let's just say Donald Trump wins in the South. He wins North Carolina, he wins Georgia, he wins in Arizona. That goes to 262, 226. All right, let's say Kamala Harris, the vice president, wins in Wisconsin. I'm going to flip this blue. She wins in Michigan. I'm going to flip that blue. All right. Then this starts to get really interesting and why Pennsylvania is the focus here, because you get to 262, 251. There's Nevada out there. That's 6 electoral college votes. That doesn't get anyone to 270. Pennsylvania has 19 electoral college votes, and that's why it's so crucial. So let's play with this for a second. If it goes red, if Donald Trump flips it, 281, he's the next president of the United States in this scenario. If it stays blue, Kamala Harris is at 270. You need 270 to win. Nevada is hanging out there, and that is why this is so crucial. All right, so let me take you to Pennsylvania and what happened there in 2020. So President Biden won PA. He hit 50 right there on the button, beat Donald Trump by 1.2%. But when you look at what happened in 2020 and 2016, look at the difference here. So Donald Trump flipped Pennsylvania in 2016. He got 48.5% of the vote. He won by 0.7%. The difference, you could see the Democratic candidate, Joe Biden, picked up 2.2% in 2022. Look at down here, Gary Johnson, the Libertarian, how much less of an influence the Libertarian candidate had in 2020. One of the reasons why the Democratic nominee was able to flip Pennsylvania. All right, speaking of PA, our NewsNation senior national correspondent Brian Enton is driving across America in the lead up to the election to see what is driving the vote. Now, there has been a lot of talk recently about black voters and if Kamala Harris will secure north of 85% of the black vote, which is basically what we've seen in recent elections for Democratic presidential candidates. Brian spoke with black voters about the two candidates and what issues are driving them to the ballot. Hello, Brian. We're going to be doing this all week. I am absolutely terrified right now, I got to admit, because my producers told me you weren't going to tell me where you are. There's a chance here I look like an idiot. Don't make me look like an idiot. Where are you, Brian?
No, I think it's an easy one. Listen, we start the big road trip tonight. 2 weeks across the country. We're going to be with you every night. But I want to give you a couple of hints of where we are right now. These are probably the most famous stairs in the country, maybe the world. This city has the first residential street in America, and it is a very, very popular place with the presidential candidate. So what do you think? It should be easy for you. Come on.
Didn't that Rocky guy run up him?
Yeah, Rocky. It's Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Blake. These are the Rocky Steps, the famous Rocky Steps. You remember that movie where he runs through the streets of Philly and he runs up the steps and everybody's chasing behind him? It's almost like a metaphor in a way for the presidential election. Both of the candidates have been here nonstop. Democrats have won 8 of the last 12 presidential elections here in Pennsylvania. But it's been an uphill battle this year. And part of that is there have been some challenges we found with black men. Take a look. In South Philadelphia, at Fahim's Hands of Precision, they line up some of the biggest stars. But today, the buzz is about politics.
You can see what Trump was talking to the vandalists. And it was because it was on Instagram. Trump is going to give police officers immunity. I've seen a lot of people disagreeing with that.
Not even that. They want to shut down the Department of Education.
I mean, I love watching it for the entertainment purposes. Like it'd be like, you know, a little comedy in there, you know, a little bit of drama, a little bit of everything.
For owner Fahim Alexander, trimming and shaving here for 24 years, it's all about community.
You know, being a barber, you know the whole family.
These days, many of those families are struggling.
Inflation is killing everybody. Like literally, this blade on my clipper has tripled in price.
Inflation, everything is bananas. It's crazy.
The economic pinch may be shaving support away from Democrats. State voter registration records show a decade ago, Democrats outnumbered Republicans in Pennsylvania by more than 1 million voters. That advantage has shrunk to 350,000.
I think we need Donald Trump. I honestly do. I think we need a hustler back in our White House.
They need to be more hands-on, you know, in the community. They need to be invested in the small businesses in every community in the United States of America.
As to skin color swaying their vote,
it's not enough. I don't think skin is enough. Skin color is enough. I would love to see her more in the black community, more in small business communities to actually see what's really going on.
We ask tonight that you help us to rise above it.
Reverend Todd Johnson gave the opening prayer at Trump's Philadelphia rally in June. He hears the frustration from many in his congregation.
Yes, I hear that a lot. These are lifelong Democrats. They're not in love with Trump, but they see Trump as a viable alternative to what they are experiencing with their pocketbook and their wallet.
He points to crime as another big factor. Despite figures showing violent crime in Philly is actually at the lowest level in a decade, parishioners say they're scared to walk the streets.
They see Trump as a person who would have more of a law and order.
He He says Harris being black and a former district attorney won't be enough to win them back.
I would imagine most of my members attach her to Biden. Those two are inseparable. So their distaste for Biden would carry over for their distaste for Kamala.
She did too much out L.A. for me. She did too much damage to the black community out there.
Experts say if Trump can turn out enough black voters, it could help sweep Pennsylvania.
Trump had our economy humming. He'll do it again. But Kamala Harris is focused on you.
The campaigns are in assault mode, spending millions on TV ads and repeated visits to the area. They have their work cut out for them.
You know, if you want me to vote for you, what are you really going to do for myself, my family, my community?
Now, it really was interesting, Blake, talking to those folks in the barbershop, because a lot of them feel like Democrats, in a sense, have taken advantage of them, just assumed that they're going to vote blue every single time, and they say they may change their minds this time. They want to see more investment in their community. So it's going to be interesting how things plan out. I told Leland, he said, you can't just sit on the Rocky Steps. You got to run the Rocky Steps. We have a 6-hour drive first stop tomorrow for you, Blake. We're going to hit the road. We're on the Hill every night this week.
Yeah, look
we'll
at
see
that.
you tomorrow, Blake. See ya.
Life on the road is tough because you don't really get to work out a lot of times. So Brian Enton up the steps, not a bad deal. Brian, stay safe. Thank you, sir. Buckle up. All right, don't miss Brian's next stop on the road trip. Driving the Vote continues tomorrow right here on the Hill, 6 o'clock Eastern. Enton, all across the country. Still to come here on the Hill, Elon Musk offering $1 million to Pennsylvania voters who will sign his petition. So will the billionaire strategy work as he aggressively hits the campaign trail for Donald Trump? Full panel after the break. You're watching the Hill here on NewsNation.
I have a surprise for you, which is that we're going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election.
All right, that of course, Elon Musk, wealthiest individual on this planet, spreading the wealth, you could say, offering the potential to win $1 million to anybody who signs America PAC's petition pledge. That's supporting the First and Second Amendment, but not everyone a fan of the promotion. The Pennsylvania governor, Josh Shapiro, asked about it yesterday.
I think there are real questions with how he is spending money in this race. It's something that law enforcement could take a look at. I'm not the attorney general anymore of Pennsylvania. I'm the governor, but it does raise some serious questions.
Full panel with me now. Macaulay Carr, former chief of staff to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Chris Steirolt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Julie Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill. Scott Bolden, NewsNation political contributor. Hello to you all. Nice to have you all in. I'm less interested in the legal of all this. Is this legal? Is this not? Whatever. I'll leave that to the lawyers. What's interesting to me, Scott, is the evolution of Elon Musk and the evolution of the Democratic Party against him. There were a lot of articles out this weekend about Elon Musk and his power and what could he do and this and that. It feels like Democrats are fearful of him. Why?
Well, he's got a lot of money and he's got a lot of influence and he's got his hand in a lot of government contracts. But listen, this $1 million...
I didn't hear anything as to why that would make you fearful, though. Is it just purely because he supports Trump?
Kamala Harris, we wouldn't be fearful.
But that's kind of my point.
Well, but Donald Trump has political money, finance issues, and Elon Musk is resolving that for him with his multiple $1 million contributions as a government contractor. That should bother all of us. But offering $1 million illegally, if you will,
you think it's illegal?
Of course it is. Just look at Title 50. Indirectly or directly, you cannot give a benefit to anyone to entice them or force them to register to vote or to go vote. You just can't do it. And so that's a problem. He's going to get a cease and desist letter. Now, whether, as my colleague and I were talking in the green room, are they going to enforce it or not? I don't know. It's $10,000 and you can go to jail for 5 years. I don't think anybody's saying he's going to do that.
How does this end, Michaela, and what do you think his influence is right now?
So I think his influence is really important. I don't think that it's illegal. And even if he gives away $1 million a day, it's still going to be 20-fold less than what Mark Zuckerberg spent on Zuckbucks. So I'm not convinced.
He got a cease and desist letter, too.
I'm not convinced that it was illegal. That was only for Democrat counties and Democrat states. What I will say is what Elon Musk is doing right now is reminding this country that we are a nation of founders. And at the same time that the Biden-Harris administration is criticizing him, they are asking him for help rescuing astronauts that we have stranded in outer space, and that giving internet to people that have also been stranded by hurricanes. So I think his influence is large, and I think that's actually a really good thing.
I hear Republicans go after Mark Zuckerberg. I hear Democrats go after Elon Musk. And it's kind of the state of play, is it not?
Well, we've seen the tech industry evolve into a divided thing. 4 years ago, Republicans still claim that the election was stolen because Hunter Biden's, the tweet about Hunter Biden's laptop was taken down by Twitter. Now they love Twitter because it's X and it's Elon Musk. So look, it's the silly season. Yeah. Tomorrow is 2 weeks from the election. Yep. So anything that a Republican does, anything that helps a Republican, Republicans are going to say is wonderful. Democrats are going to say is a cancer on democracy. I think we can, and I, with great deference to my colleagues here on the panel, can mostly disregard the opinions of partisans about these things at this point. But to your point, it's very interesting to see how the market has affected the way people perceive these companies, and that once upon a time, a monolithic, mostly left Silicon Valley tech sector is now 50-50.
Yeah, it's flipped or moved. Pennsylvania. He's in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
What does it tell you?
I think he's betting on Pennsylvania, and he really should be. I mean, look, Pennsylvania, out of all the swing states, they need to be in all the swing states, but Pennsylvania has the most electoral college votes, and I think he certainly sees some movement. We've seen some movement there, even though it's pretty locked in. I thought it was interesting that Harris, over the weekend, while he was in Pennsylvania, was in Michigan and Georgia. She's lost some ground in those two states, particularly in Georgia. And when I say lose ground, I don't want to give the impression that she is way behind. This is very, very narrow still, but being there as much as possible, doing the McDonald's stop. I mean, I think optically that was probably a good move.
Okay, so the table, you could ask if the tables have turned on the election. DDHQ's, Decision Desk HQ's presidential forecast now has Donald Trump with a 52% chance of winning. On the flip, that means Kamala Harris a 48% chance of winning. This is the first time that Trump has taken the lead since Harris took over at the top of the ticket. The state of the race tonight, Michaela, as you see it, is this the beginning of a trend that keeps on going? Is this sort of a game that just keeps getting played back and forth? Where are we?
I think this is exactly a trend. I think we're going to continue to see it. Whether it will be enough, ultimately, at the end of the day, I still think is too close to call. But he's making significant ground, and she is still trying to figure out what her message is. And I think that this is a trend that we're going to see.
It's just another snapshot, if you will. I mean, the reason that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are spending so much time in Pennsylvania, because I saw some statistics today that said there are a lot of white, male, uneducated voters in Pennsylvania. And that's where Donald Trump has something like a 50-point lead in regard to that group, as Kamala Harris has a 50-plus point lead in regard to women in that state. That's really what's keeping it close. That's why Elon Musk is there. But I don't see this as a trend, if you will. Show me that same statistic a week out. I don't think it will be that.
It was 55-45 Harris. Now it's 52-48 Trump. This is not a poll. This is a probability. Polling is a snapshot in time. You wonder, Julia, is that the moment or is that the trend? Folks that you talk to, what are they telling you?
I think everyone's trying to err on the side of caution because, I mean, going back to 2016, I mean, I think when we talk about polling, there's still a lot of skepticism in polling. I've heard a lot of complaints from Democrats I've chatted to that they're afraid that Republican-leaning polls are sort of flooding the zone. We'll see if that's true. But I think a lot of people are saying this is a moment because, remember, we're 2 weeks out from Election Day. So much has happened in October already. We've had two hurricanes that could very well influence this. Exactly. So this, I think people are being safe here.
The criticism against Democrats was they were leaning on vibes and on joy. And you said earlier in the show, Chris, that's sort of where Republicans are right now. Are they too overconfident at this point in time that this is moving in their direction, or
At the end of every election cycle, Republicans are irrationally overconfident and Democrats are pessimistic. It's the nature
about everything.
It's the nature of the two parties. As Barack Obama famously said, they get all wee-weed up. Everybody gets upset on the Democratic side. The Republican in 2012, Republicans were like, Mitt Romney's going to win, and I'm like, I think you're not correct. I think that's not true. But they were very confident that he was going to win. So. Let me put it in business terms because Berman means business.
Got my attention.
Here's the deal. That number is like a jobs report that comes out after the month is gone.
Right.
What those numbers reflect are gains that Donald Trump made in the previous month. So a month ago, Kamala Harris's vibes, which came from uniting the Democratic Party, putting them together, she got her convention bounce early. She came into the race, and you can see it in those numbers, and she moved out to her biggest lead. Republicans weren't united yet. Now Republicans are united. They're 100% in. They're feeling the vibes for Donald Trump. Everything makes them feel good, and now they're in. There's 2 points of undecided left. How those break will determine this election.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Still to come here on The Hill, live look, Concord, North Carolina. Donald Trump expected to speak with Dr. Ben Carson, top of the hour. Both candidates are all over the place today. And still to come, by the way, speaking of still to come, Leland Vitter, host of On Balance, on the other side of the break. All right, welcome back here to The Hill on News Nation. Live look right now, Concord, North Carolina, where Donald Trump is set to participate in what he is calling the 11th hour faith leaders meeting. The former president spending the day in the battleground state of North Carolina. He stopped in Asheville earlier today to survey the damage caused by Hurricane Helene. He blasted the response by FEMA and the federal government. The vice president, Kamala Harris, today all across the blue wall as she campaigned in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Host of On Balance, Leland Vitter, joins me now. Hello, Leland. Bill O'Reilly coming up on your show, I am told. What y'all talking about?
We're talking about Elon Musk, the world's richest man, trying to pick the world's most powerful man. And it is interesting for Republicans who for so long